Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. Don't let Judge I'm just rusting my eyes Williams fool you. I'm pretty sure he has the listening device powered down. He's using those as earplugs. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Okay. We'll come on up here and sit right here. Will you raise your right hand so that testimony that gives have a seat there and lean toward that red microphone. Use your outside voice and tell us who you are.
For the record, I put Mr. Tucker in a waiting room, so for the separation of duties.
Okay.
My name is Bridget Shelton.
You going to speak up louder than that?
Bridget Shelton,
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Shelton, where are you employed?
Dr. Carol Pettiport's
And
office,
what's your position there?
LPN,
Okay. And how long have you worked for Dr. Petticoat?
6 years.
You know the defendant, Eddie K. Jarvis?
Yes,
Have you seen him before in Dr. Petticoat's office?
yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about what happened on July the 10th, 2025. Did you have any conversations with Mr. Jarvis about his health condition?
I did.
And what did they consist of?
He called and he was wanting an appointment to see Dr. Pettiport. We were already patients cut off for the afternoon because she had to leave early. And I told him we could get him in the next day, and he said he needed to be seen that day. And I told him, there was no openings, but we could get him in, the next day or go to the ER. So he went on, he couldn't go to the ER. He wanted to come and see her.
So you advised him we couldn't see Dr. Petticoat. And if
Yes.
it was an emergency, he'd call the ER, go to the ER. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay. Is that the only conversation you had with him that day?
Yes,
And how many telephone conversations you had? One?
yes, just the one.
Okay. And you remember about what time of the day that was?
Three, somewhere around 3.
Okay. At that point in time, did he threaten you in any way?
No,
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
No question, Joe. She may be excused. Call your next witness.
Call Deborah Lee.
You can stay in the courtroom, man, if you'd like, and leave, okay? Would you come up here, raise your right hand, you swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing. Sit there and lean toward the red microphone and in your outside voice. Tell us your name.
Deborah Lee,
You may proceed.
Ms. Lee, where are you employed?
Dr. Carol Pettiport's office,
And what's your position there?
office manager,
Okay. And how long have you worked for Dr. Petticoat?
altogether about 20 years.
Okay. I want to ask you about the events that occurred on July the 10th, 2025. Did you retrieve, part of your job, do you retrieve messages off the answering machines?
Yes,
Okay. I want to ask you, how did you learn about these messages that Mr. Jarvis left that day?
They had been put on the receptionist phone on her. So she had come and got me for me to come and listen to them. So that's how I got to hear them.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to play these messages. They're short. There's 3 of them total.
Go ahead.
Did you have any communication with Mr. Jarvis that day?
No, I did not.
And about what time of day was these messages retrieved, if you recall?
Somewhere between 3:30 to 4, I'm thinking, because we were getting out early that day. Dr. Petticoat had a meeting she had to go to.
Did you learn sometime during that day or later that he had actually talked to Miss Shelton?
Yes.
And when did you find that out?
Well, after we had listened to the messages, she told me that he had called and she had advised him to go to the ER because we were leaving early, closing early.
So to your knowledge, these messages occurred after he was advised to go to the ER?
Yes, they were.
Nothing further.
Do you have any questions, this lady?
Just a few. You're the office manager there at Dr. Pettiport's office.
Yes,
And how long have you been office manager?
10 years.
10 years. And you're familiar with Mr. Jarvis being a patient?
Yes, I am.
And how has he been a patient for that entire 10-year period, to your knowledge?
Close to it.
Okay. Are you aware of Mr. Jarvis going to the back door of Dr. Pettiford's office to see her?
No,
Okay. Are you aware of his daughter going to the back door of Dr. Pettiford's office to see her for professional services?
she has.
Okay. So is it unusual or strange or threatening for a patient to say that they're going to go to the back door of Dr. Pettiford's office?
The only people that comes to the back door of our office is ones that are an emergency patient, as in somebody short of breath, or we're going to test them for COVID.
And was Mr. Jarvis's daughter Allison, was she short of breath when she came to the back door?
I think she had her child with her that was sick.
Like the child said. So if Mr. Jarvis has gone to the back door of Dr. Pettiford's office to receive professional services in the past, you're just not aware of it?
Mr. Jarvis has?
Yeah, Mr. Jarvis.
No, I'm not aware of it if he has.
Okay. That's the only questions I have. Thank you.
This witness be excused.
You may.
You may be excused. You can stay or leave, either one you like. Okay? Next, somebody else.
I'd call Jordan Tucker. He's online via Zoom.
Megan, open the Jordan Tucker. You turn your camera and microphone on, okay. You raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, state your name and with whom you're employed.
Trooper Jordan Tucker with Kentucky State Police.
Okay. Stop, you may proceed.
Can you hear me, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
I might come up here, so I'll be near the microphone. I want to ask you about the events that occurred on July the 6th. Were you dispatched to 406 Hudson Road in Albany, Kentucky?
That is correct.
And can you tell me about what time and for what purpose?
From what the CAD shows, it's showing about 1711 Central Time is whenever I was dispatched. I then made contact over the phone with Mr. Jarvis and spoke to him, and he advised that somebody had broke into his house approximately an hour before he called 911. So I went to his house to investigate.
Okay. And what did you find once you got to his residence?
So once I arrived at his residence, Mr. Jarvis met me at his basement front door. We walk in. Once we go inside, he advises that he was in one room in his house in the basement, and he heard somebody else in another room in his basement. And so he called out. He believed it was his daughter. Had just walked in, and he called out for her and heard nothing, and advised that he then heard a gunshot. And so he ran out of the room he was in, and he seen some individual. He didn't have a description on the individual, and left in a vehicle with an unknown description as well.
Okay. Hey, did you do any investigation to ascertain if a gun had been fired in the house?
That is correct.
What did you find?
So there was no shell casing found in the room where Mr. Jarvis said the shot was fired. We did find a bullet hole. Mr. Jarvis advised that it looked to be an old bullet hole in a door that was in this particular room where the shot he believed was fired from. The bullet hole seemed to be pretty old as well whenever I noticed it. We then went into a separate room where the bullet hole was in the door. It would have traveled into this separate room, went in there. There was no other bullet holes found in that room on any wall.
Okay. Did anything of any other significance happen that day while he was at the scene?
Mr. Jarvis advised he didn't know who the suspect was. He didn't have any descriptions on the suspect at all. And he didn't have any vehicle description. He advised that it was possibly a male, heavier set, and that they may have left in possibly a police style cruiser is
Did
what
you talk to his daughter that day or the neighbors
That
to
is-
see if they heard any gunshots?
that is correct. I spoke with his daughter. She showed up a little bit after myself and two deputies showed up on scene, and she advised she had spoke with the neighbors and they hadn't heard any gunshots.
Okay. So did you have any contact with Mr. Jarvis later, but like the next day or later on?
That is correct. I don't remember if it was the next day or the day after that. I then went back because I advised Mr. Jarvis to get a list, compile a list for me of everything that had been possibly taken from his residence. Whenever I showed up that next day, he advised that he didn't have anything that had been stolen. And so we walked through the residence again. Still, there's no shell casings. He takes me into the room where the bullet hole went through the door into this separate room. He took me into this room and showed me multiple holes in a wall that were not there the previous day.
Did they appear to be bullet or shotgun pellets?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you what they are. They didn't seem to be bullet holes to me.
But there were holes in the wall that wasn't there the day before.
Multiple holes that were there the day before, and they were behind a crossbow case that was on this shelf. And I have body cam footage shows me checking over this crossbow case on the wall. I advised there wasn't any holes. And so for holes to be in that wall, they would have had to travel through this crossbow case, and there's no hole in the crossbow case as well.
Okay. Now, did Mr. Jarvis give you a better description of who broke in the house this last time you talked to him?
That's correct. He advised that he wasn't for sure, but he believed it to be Brad Cross, Deputy Brad Cross.
Deputy Sheriff here in Clinton County.
That is correct.
Okay. Did you question Mr. Cross about him?
I spoke with Mr. Cross a little bit, and he didn't have anything to say about it.
Okay. Is that after all this was completed, was Mr. Jarvis charged with anything?
That is correct. He was charged with falsely reporting an incident to law enforcement.
Okay. I have no other questions.
You may inquire the witness counsel.
Mr. Bray, I have a few questions. First of all, you charged Mr. Jarvis with the filing a false report.
Correct.
And if you could specifically tell me exactly what was false that he reported to you.
What was false that he reported to me?
Correct.
Okay. Well, he advised that a gun was shot in his residence. He advised that there was a bullet hole in his door. He believed to be an old bullet hole. He advised that it went through this door. I checked. There was no holes on any wall in this room. I'd come back the next day and there's multiple holes put in this wall that were not there today prior.
Well, if we could just go through these allegations one at a time. He told you that there was a gun fired in his house.
That's correct.
Any proof at all that the gun wasn't fired in his house?
Any proof at all? There wasn't any proof that a gun was fired in the residence other than there being a bullet hole. What seemed to be a bullet hole in his door in his residence.
Yeah. So there's no proof that a gun was fired or was not fired in the house, correct?
I didn't find a shell casing, so there was no evidence that a gun was fired.
So there's no evidence that that was a false report. Objection to the argument and making the question.
Cross-examination. All right.
Pardon.
Okay. So there was no evidence that that was a false report that the gun had been fired in the house.
Can you rephrase the question? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
How about here at the podium? Okay. It's what's called a double negative question.
Okay. Mr. Jarvis's report that a gun had been fired in the house was
Correct.
not false, was it?
I believe it to be false.
Based on what?
He advised that there's an old bullet hole in his door. There's no evidence of there being any holes on the wall that it would have had to travel through the day prior. I come back the next day and there's multiple holes in the wall that were not there the day before. I've got it on body cam as well.
again, I just want to do this individually. A gun could have been fired in the house and not left any, you couldn't find any hole at all. That doesn't mean that the gun wasn't fired in the house.
This question's been asked and answered 5 times. Mr. Burke would like the answer, but it's
Well,
an answer.
It's not an answer to my question. My question is, what evidence does he have that was false?
He's giving you what his belief,
Okay, his belief, okay. And the bullet hole that he pointed toward in the door, he identified that as an old bullet hole, did he not?
That is correct.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that that's a false report? That the bullet hole was not old?
I believe it to be an old bullet hole as well. I thought the same thing, and then he brings it up.
Okay, so that's true. It's not false.
Okay.
Okay. So the next allegation of being false is there's some holes in the wall that you said that were there the second visit you made that were not there the first visit.
That is
And
correct.
the holes in the wall were not bullet holes,
That's correct.
correct?
That's correct.
What was false about that?
I think we're having difficulty. I'm gonna check because the false report is based on the fact that Mr. Jarvis said that there was somebody breaking in, that there was an intruder in the house and that a gunshot had been fired. It's not just that there's a gunshot. It was all of them. And there was no evidence anybody.
You get a chance to argue.
Well, I mean, it's just.
So there's nothing false about that.
Okay.
And Mr. Jarvis also told you that he was not sure about the identity of the person, but that he believed it to be Mr. Cross on the second visit that you made. He said he believed it to be him, but that he wasn't sure. Is that your testimony?
That is correct. He advised he thinks it was Deputy Brad Cross.
So you think it's false that he thought that?
False that he thought that it was Deputy Brad Cross.
What's false about that?
Well, he advised the day before he didn't know who it was. The second day he advised it's Brad Cross.
For sure.
Well, in the motion, it says he falsely reported the incident when he claimed Brad Cross broke into his home and fired a gun. See report attached here too. Now, Mr. Jarvis did not tell you that Brad Cross broke into his home, did he?
The second day he believed it to be Brad Cross.
And Mr. Jarvis did not see anyone. He didn't tell you that he saw anyone fire a gun, did he?
He advised he heard a gunshot in the room next to him.
Okay. But he didn't say Mr. Cross fired the gun.
Not that I can remember.
Okay. And Mr. Jarvis had called the Kentucky State Police to report what he believed to be a criminal intrusion into his home, correct?
Yes, he called an hour after the fact. Correct.
And you asked him questions about what he thought, what he believed to be the facts about the situation. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. I questioned him.
And he responded to your questions that you asked him.
That's correct.
And he told you that he could not even identify the car that the person got in, correct?
He advised that he believed it looked like a police cruiser.
But he said he couldn't identify.
That's correct.
Sure. And he told you he had really bad eyesight,
Correct.
correct? He had really bad hearing.
That's correct.
He told you that when he was telling you this information, didn't he?
That's correct.
So did he tell you that he didn't see the intruder's face, that he only saw him from behind?
He advised it looked to be a heavier set male is all he advised me.
Yeah. Well, he couldn't identify anyone, much less Mr. Cross, could he?
Pardon?
He couldn't identify, and that did not identify anyone, did he?
He advised the second day he believed it to be Brad Cross.
Okay. Now, did Brad Cross show up at the scene the first day shortly after you arrived?
That is correct. He came lights and sirens after I advised that there had been a gunshot inside Mr. Jarvis's residence.
Okay, so he was actually there on the premises that day,
Yes, yes, sir.
and Mr. Jarvis saw him.
That's correct. He showed up while we were outside talking.
Well, he didn't come up to you at that point in time saying, "Hey, there's the man that was in the house." Did he?
Not that I'm aware. I don't recall him saying Brad Cross did it the first day.
And this body cam footage that you referred to, what does it show other than these holes in the wall?
The body cam footage, it shows the holes in the wall the second day. The first day, it even shows me saying that there's no holes on the wall that I looked
They
at.
weren't bullet holes, they were just holes.
Correct. That weren't there the day prior.
You didn't do any type of gunshot residue testing to determine, what had made the holes, did you?
The second day, no, that there was no need to.
Okay, you didn't do it on the first day with the hole in the door either, did you?
That's correct. I did not.
Did he show you jackets in the closet that the bullets had allegedly traveled through?
That's correct. I believe there was probably 3 jackets, camo jackets that the bullet supposedly went through.
Were there in fact holes in the jackets?
I believe there was a hole in each jacket is what me and Mr. Jarvis discovered.
Were they bullet holes?
I couldn't advise. There were holes in all 3 jackets.
Did you put that on the body cam?
That is correct. It should be on body cam.
So there's been no further investigation other than what you did those 2 days to determine that this was a false report?
That is correct.
There's a difference between making a false police report and providing inaccurate information, isn't there?
I believe so.
Can you tell me why this isn't a report of inaccurate information as opposed to a false report?
You're going to have to say it again.
Can you tell me why this is a case of a false report instead of simply providing inaccurate information?
Well, Mr. Jarvis has explained multiple times while I was on scene that he has issues with the sheriff's office. So he advised he believes it's Brad Cross.
He never had any prior problems with Brad Cross, did he? I'm gonna object to that question. Well, you're not aware of any.
From talking with Mr. Jarvis and Mr. Brad Cross, Mr. Jarvis does not like Brad Cross at all.
But you
So-
don't, he's got any past history with Mr. Cross, do you?
He advised Mr. Brad Cross served a warrant on him one time, from what I recall.
No further questions.
You don't have any further
No, I do
questions?
not.
You have another witness, you're there.
I'm finished.
Would you like to call in? Would you like to call in witnesses, counsel?
Yeah, Allison, what's her last name? Allison's last name.
Allison Jarvis Ray.
Allison Ray, Allison Jarvis Ray.
Come on.
Well, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony that is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Have a seat here, lean toward the red microphone, speak your outside voice and tell us the name.
Allison Jarvis Ray.
You may proceed, counsel.
Allison, I have a few questions to ask you about Dr. Petticord. Is Dr. Petticord your doctor?
Not my primary, but I do visit her at times whenever we can't get into our primary doctor.
Okay. Is Eddie Jarvis your father?
Yes,
Okay. Is Dr. Petticord Eddie's doctor?
yes,
Okay. And have you ever gone to Dr. Pettiford's office and received professional services at her back door?
Yes,
Done on how many occasions?
I would say around 20 since 2020,
Okay,
20 different times, because she's my husband's primary doctor
okay.
and sees our children quite a bit.
So you frequently go to her back door to receive professional services, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of your father going to Dr. Pettiford's back door to receive professional services in the past several years?
Yes.
On few or many occasions?
It depends on how sick he was. They tend to swab you through the back, or if you're feeling really bad. I have actually brought him through the back door when he was very sick before, and that's an evaluation room as soon as you enter.
And are you familiar with the situation where his leg was swollen and he called Dr. Pettiford's office this summer and kind of got in trouble for it?
Yes, I have pictures of it.
Okay. Tell the court, what happened that day? How did you become aware that Mr. Jarvis was having problems with his leg that way?
I had been in the garden for quite some time, so my phone was inside because I had no need of it out there. And whenever I had came in after several hours of being out there with my kids, I had a lot of missed calls from him. And then I saw a number that I'm not familiar with, and I called it back, and it was Anthony Wilson, which is his close friend. And he had said, because I was like, that's strange. I hope something's not happened, because I knew he was supposed to have been home. And Anthony said that Dad had been trying to get a hold of me, and he had promised that he'd also try to get a hold of me, and that Dad was having something going on with swelling with his legs and that they were turning black. So I called Dad. And he was like frantic. He was like really scared because he's just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes like the last year and a half to 2 years. And so he struggles with what is good to eat and taking care of that. And huh?
I think my objection is we're getting a little far afield.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, be responsive to the question.
Okay.
Is he expressed concerns or fears to you about his leg and his diabetes and what might happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were his fears?
He's been very fearful
It's not
of
necessary.
losing his legs.
Okay. But did you in fact verify that he did have a serious problem with his leg?
Yeah, they were extremely swollen.
Okay. Tell me what did you do once you found out your dad was having these problems?
I was unaware of any phone calls, so I took a picture and actually sent it to Danielle Smith, which is an APRN that works with Dr. Carroll. I have her cell phone number and had expressed concerns and wanted to see if I could get him in to be seen. And she messaged me back and said that he couldn't be seen that day, but he did need medical attention as soon as possible.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to July the 6th, 2025, when the Kentucky State Police were at your father's residence here in Clayton County. How did you become aware that day that Mr. Jarvis believed someone had been in his home?
He had called me several times, and I called him back, and he was on the phone again, really frantic, and out of breath. And he had told me that he believed somebody had shot at him. And I asked for clarification because, you know, I was hopeful he was incorrect. And anyways, he was really scared and said that he needed me to come there immediately. And I had my 3 kids, so I had to wait. But that I had gotten correspondence from him that he had been shot at via phone.
Did you all decide on what type of protective action to take during that conversation?
Yeah, I had hung up from him, and I had called my husband's cousins who live right behind his home. It's a field's distance, and I had called them first and to see if they had seen anything, because they have cameras around. but they don't reach that distance apparently. And then I called him back, and I advised him, I was like, Dad, I think you need to call the state police. I was like, if someone is shooting at you, you need to call the police and let them know.
Did he tell you he was going to call the Kentucky State Police?
Yeah, he wasn't sure at first because he was so shook up, but I had convinced him myself to call.
You convinced him to call the Kentucky State Police?
Yes.
Okay. And he tell you that he had in fact called them?
He told me he would,
Okay.
and that's whenever I called my husband for us to get up there.
So you and your husband then left from your residence to drive to Mr. Jarvis's residence,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Who was there when you arrived?
My dad and the state trooper was standing at the end of the driveway.
Okay, and when you had any conversations with the state trooper and your dad at that point in time?
Yeah, I told him that, everything weapon wise had been removed from the home, so it definitely couldn't have been a misfire of any sort. And that, I had talked to the neighbors and they hadn't reported hearing or seeing anything, but she was laying her baby down for bed, so they weren't outside to have seen or heard anything at the time.
Okay. And,
But I did not go inside with him.
okay, you did not go inside with him.
With him when we first got there. I never saw him enter the home.
Okay, so the Kentucky State Police were not in the home, they had already been in the home and were out.
Yeah, the gentleman had.
Okay, and the sheriff deputies weren't in the house either, were they?
No, they never.
So after everyone left, did you go into the home with your father?
Yes, my husband and I did because I had yet to see anything
Okay,
from in there. I didn't even realize.
okay,
Anything
was you
from that?
aware that he claimed that there was a shot fired inside the home, correct?
Yes,
Did you observe any damages, bullet holes or anything else while you were in the home?
yeah. So when we entered his living area, there's a side room that he uses for storage over to the right next to the refrigerator. And there was a massive hole through the door. And it had not been there because I'm the caretaker of the home right now.
That's what I'm saying. Is there any question in your mind whether that was a new hole or an old hole?
Oh, it was definitely a new hole. It had not been there prior.
Okay. And you say you're the caretaker there at the house, you're familiar with it, how often are you there?
I'm there every day.
Okay. So this is the first time you ever saw this hole, correct?
Yes.
Okay, did you examine the hole?
Yeah, so when we opened it, because, you know, it was shocking, he had jackets, camo jackets for hunting on the back of the door, and there was a bullet hole through the jackets.
How many of the jackets had the bullet hole in them?
There were, I'm trying to remember. I think 2 jackets had a hole through them. They're laying on his couch as we speak.
Okay. Now, the trooper in this case has testified that there was, the second time he came to the home, that there were some holes of some kind in the wall that weren't there the first time.
I just don't know if he didn't walk through because we found them immediately. Like it's through, there's like a closet that's like underneath the steps. It goes through the bottom. There's through the bottom, like 2, and then where the steps go up, they have like wood on them like this, and it goes like straight through. You can see where it lines up. Like you can stand on the steps and see where it lines up, and it's like it gradually gets a little bit tinier as it passes through. And I didn't go as far as looking past that because it's a 30-foot stretch to see if it even hit the garage doors. I didn't look at that, but it definitely passed through in a straight line, and it got a little bit smaller each time.
Okay, was there any holes in the wall?
No, there's never been any holes through there. No.
Have you been to seen any holes in the wall in there, after that when you've been cleaning it, so forth?
Currently, like more
Yeah, well,
holes.
Yeah, any holes in the wall that might have been caused by this gunshot?
No, there's not been any more. It got really close to the heating and cooling system though.
Okay, well, there's the hole in the door.
Mhm.
There's a hole in the 2 jackets in the closet.
Yeah, it'd be a
Okay, are there
door.
any further holes after that? what I'm trying to say.
There's a hole through the door, a hole through 1, 2, 3 walls.
Okay, so there's holes in 3 walls.
Yes.
Okay. And these are smaller in diameter than the first one?
Yeah, they kind of go to scatter, like they start scattering,
Okay.
like kind of like buckshot wood.
And your father at that point in time, was unable to identify who the intruder was?
Yeah, at the time, he was just so, like, he was tore up, the first day. And he had said that from the beginning that it looked like a cop car, and I was like, now, Dad, but he truly believes that that's what he saw.
Well, if a police car had been parked there in the yard, okay, would it have been easy to determine it was during the day?
Depending on where it was parked, just depending on which angle he.
Any further questions that you would like to answer me?
About to go up, just keep moving on, moving on.
Was there anything false about the information that you saw there that day? Would you think indication that what Mr. Jarvis had told was false?
No, I didn't feel like he was putting on a falsehood. There's
We testified in the ultimate conclusion of the separate fact.
The objection sustained, what she believes is not admissible.
They truly believe them. Okay, that's all question I have.
You don't have any questions for us?
Just a couple. Ms. Raines, when did Mr. Jarvis, on July the 10th, when he tried to get with Dr. Pettigrew, when did you take him to the hospital that day?
I did not take him to the hospital that day. I went and purchased him some what are they called? Compression socks, in hopes that maybe that would help, because my mom's a nurse and I had talked to her and she wanted me to try that before taking him to the hospital.
Okay, and when did you go to the hospital or doctor for that condition?
He ended up, I got him an appointment up in town, and because we were trying to wait because he's putting the socks on. And the day that I was headed to go take him to the doctor, he was arrested. So it was a few days after
A
that.
few days later?
It was,
You
yeah.
just planned on taking the doctor?
Yes.
And the other question is, you said the trooper said you talked to the neighbors and they didn't hear any gunshots that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who did you talk to?
I talked to Laura Vidito.
Okay.
They live about a quarter of a mile from Dad's home.
Right behind it, don't they?
Yeah, about a quarter.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Just a few follow-up questions. Is Dr. Pettigrew continuing to treat Mr. Jarvis?
He's not been in the situation to see her in person, but she did do a prescription via phone call since the complaint.
Does your dad have any type of neurological conditions?
He does.
Okay, and what would those be?
He has a culvert of calcified veins on the left side of his brain that presses on nerves that causes him to have seizure-like activity and confusion. And then he has ischemic changes in his gray matter, which are signs of small vessel disease according to his CT scans and latest MRI with contrast. He's scheduled to go to the neurologist September 2nd.
Is his neurological condition improved or deteriorated?
It's deteriorating.
Over the past year?
Mhm.
Okay. And what about his vision and his eyesight?
It's always been poor. He's always needed glasses.
What about his
And
hearing?
his hearing is severe.
These things also deteriorating.
Yes.
That's all the question I had. No reason.
Excuse me, excuse.
Can I sit up here or do I need to go? Okay.
You have another witness?
I may have my client, you know, you won't jump. Go ahead, Jarvis, you know.
Go up, take the stand, please. You want to come up and take the stand, have them come up and take the stand.
You want to take the station.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
You have a seat. State your full name, please.
State your full name.
Judge, I'm off the bat on my hearing.
State your full name, please.
Eddie K. Jarvis.
Okay. Mr. Jarvis, did you hear the testimony of the Kentucky State Trooper on the Zoom monitor over there a few moments ago?
I have great knowledge of that day when it happened. And
But my question, Mr. Jarvis, is this: did you hear the Kentucky State Troopers?
You don't, you need to get closer to the microphone, brother.
Thank you. Did you hear, my question is this: did you hear the Kentucky State Troopers testimony on the TV a few moments ago?
yes, I did.
Okay. Is there anything about his testimony that you think was incorrect or not accurate in any way?
To start with, I hesitated to call the state police because of circumstances, and I had a conversation with with my daughter. And I'm sorry, I talked with a gust, and I did this same when I talked to Dr. Petticore to try to convince him that I had serious problem with my leg to please let me have a appointment.
Okay, but my
However,
question, Mr. Jarvis, my question.
Let him finish his answer. I can't understand it, Mr. Perkins.
Well, because Your Honor, I've asked him a question about Kentucky State Police, and we're now talking about his testimony. We're now talking about Dr. Petticore. Just trying
Okay,
to keep it
We've
on.
been here 2 hours. I won't be able to let him give his testimony yet.
Go ahead.
I want you to confine your comments to the Kentucky State Police testimony right now, then we'll move on to something else, okay? What about the testimony of the Kentucky State Trooper's testimony do you believe was not accurate and that you want to clarify for the court?
upon the state trooper getting there, he introduced himself to me. We discussed other state troopers like the specs that had been, troopers here. However, when I proceeded to show the officer where the bullet went through the garment, he said, I don't see anything. I showed him the hole in the wall, and he said, or in the door, and he said, I think that looks old. And I admitted that I seen black around it. But I had to pick up each garment one at a time and prove to that officer that a bullet went through those few garments, which is hunting clothes that I'd hung there for the summer. It was very hard for me to convince him of any hole, and the fact that any bullet fired by a throwdown weapon or whatever packs powder with it, and that'll turn that hole black immediately after the bullet passes on through. And I proceeded to show him the stairway as my daughter talked about how it was lined. But each bullet, each time it hit a wooden wall, it would shatter like any bullet's gonna do. I'm not saying what kind of a bullet it was, but it was a bullet. As it dug its way through the wall, across the steps, and through the back wall, it shattered. And if the trooper had looked, he would have seen that the lead was there in the latter part of those walls. He was very hard to convince. I asked him repeatedly to go upstairs with me, and he replied he didn't have time. that he needed to be elsewhere. When I went upstairs, the door had been, after he immediately left, the door had been prized open upstairs where the improvisator or ever who came through and entered my house.
Okay, I want to ask you, you never saw the face of this perpetrator that you believe to be in the house, did you?
I did not see his face.
And you told the state trooper,
Well, wait, just ask him what he saw. Let's not tell
Okay.
what he told the state
Okay.
trooper.
okay,
Ask him what he saw.
okay. Did you see the face of the intruder in the house?
No, not
Okay.
the first day.
Okay, did you see a car outside after the person left?
After the bullet passed by me and I felt the gusts off of it. And I thought, what in the world? I called out to my daughter prior, and that's when the bullet went off and it fired by me, missing me probably a foot at the most. And as it passed on through, I heard, when my daughter didn't answer, I heard the intruder go through the door and head down the hallway, knocking stuff aside because I have a lot of stuff in my basement. And never who it was is having trouble getting through. And I heard stuff falling. So that gave me the courage to go follow after and see what I could see.
Okay.
As I got near the back door, I saw an individual running on the gravel. And as I followed as well, I saw him get in his vehicle and sped away. I did not see the vehicle for a very long time. It was just a point of, looks to me to be a officer's car. He asked me what year, what license plate was. I explained to him that I didn't have time to do that. And I did not that day. He told me he'd be back the very next day with a crew to run a full investigation of the crime scene. However, it was a week and a day that he came back. When he came back, upon arriving, he pulled up. Seconds later, Mr. Cross pulled up, and then another police car. They stood at the end of my driveway, talking for 15, 20 minutes, like they discussed in the whole situation. I had hoped that he wouldn't attempt to bring Mr. Cross in my house, and he did not. And we had further discussion about the crime scene.
Did you give the state trooper any false information that you thought was false? Intentionally?
I think after he talked to Mr. Raines convinced him of the certain things that he should not have.
My question is this, did you give the state trooper any information that you believe to be false?
That I believe to be false?
Correct.
None whatsoever. He's a very hard young man to convince. I talked to his sires at the post. They asked me what I thought about him. I said he seems to be a nice young man. However, I don't believe he's worked crime scenes before. And they replied to me that he had not.
Okay. All right, now, in regard to Dr. Petticord, okay, have you gone to Dr. Petticord's back door in the past to receive medical treatment?
I have been to Dr. Petticord for some 30, 40 years. She always called me her old friend. I believe Dr. Petticord is not here today because if she was, I'm saying if she had had fault with me, she'd be here today to testify. I don't think.
Did you go to Dr. Petticord's back door to receive medical treatment?
No, I did not, but I have in prior times.
That's my question.
Okay.
How often have you gone to her back door to receive medical treatment in the past?
6 or 8 times.
Okay. When you called and left messages on Dr. Petticord's machine, why were you leaving those messages?
Because Dr. Petticore has always seen me, a lot of times the last patient of the day, but she's always seen me. Never refused to see me if she knew I was calling.
Were you calling and leaving those messages to receive medical treatment?
I was.
And for what condition?
My leg was 3 times the size. I can show the court right now my black toes where I suffered from that day.
What was your reaction when you saw your leg that morning when you got up?
It scared me to death. I thought I'm gonna lose my leg.
You started making, so in response, you called her.
After calling my daughter, I also called asking for an appointment. I probably spoke with Gus like I am now.
Do you have anything against anybody, Dr. Petticore or anybody in her office that would make you want to threaten them in any way?
Absolutely not. Dr. Petticore would be one of the last person I could ever do anything to. She's got a great smile, and I sometimes I ask her for the prescription I think that it would take for me to become well, and she usually complies.
Okay.
She has been my doctor for quite a few years, even though people have said, you know, try a new doctor. I have not. I've stuck with Dr. Petticore.
I don't have any further questions of you, Mr. Jarvis, but I may have a few questions.
I have just a few questions to clarify. Mr. Jarvis, did you hear Ms. Shelton testify?
Did I watch this?
Did you hear Ms. Shelton testify earlier today?
I did.
And did you have a conversation with her?
Not today, no.
You heard her testify, didn't you, today?
I heard her testify.
Did you have a conversation with her that day your leg was bothering you?
I spoke to a new recorder.
Okay. Now, Ms. Shelton testified earlier today that she had a conversation with you the day your leg was bothering you.
I felt like I was talking to a machine. I might have talked with her.
Okay.
And I asked her name.
Well, and she told you that if your leg was that bad, that you needed to call the emergency room, go to the hospital because Dr. Petticore was unavailable. Do you remember her telling you that?
I heard her say that.
Today?
I will not go to this doctor out here. I've been there before. They rob you. They take your blood pressure. They have no
Okay.
business, even though my brother has told me repeatedly, him being a doctor, that this hospital out here is very, very different from other hospitals.
I understand your opinion about this hospital, but do
It's
you
not
agree?
good.
Do you agree that Ms. Shelton told you that you couldn't see Dr. Petticore that day because she was unavailable?
No, she did not
So-
tell me that I could not
So
see.
she just wasn't telling the truth when she got up here, that nurse from Dr. Petticore's office.
I'm gonna take Lee to answer the question you started answering.
Okay.
She never told me that they was leaving early, specifically. She did not tell me that we're leaving the office early or we don't have time to see you. She said we've got a full schedule. And I told her that I believed if she told Dr. Petticore that I needed the attention, that Dr. Petticore would tell me, come to the back door and blow or knock.
So your disputes with her staff, not with Dr. Petticore?
I did not speak with Dr. Petticore.
That's right. You felt that her staff was mistreating.
Let him finish.
I thought he did.
Well, no,
I did not. I did not.
Okay. So what was you gonna say? I didn't mean to interrupt
Say again.
you. So your dispute was with her staff, not with Dr. Petticore, with her employees?
Wasn't no dispute with anybody.
Well, there was
I
a
probably
dis-
spoke with Gus,
Okay.
not meaning to. I can't hear anything, Jesse.
Okay. Well, your dispute is you was wanting to see Dr. Petticore and they was telling you that you couldn't that day. That's your
No.
dispute.
That's not true.
So they didn't tell you that you couldn't see her that day.
They said she had a full schedule. They did not tell me that he's leaving early.
Well, when she's got a full schedule, doesn't that mean she can't see you that day?
Dr. Petticoat has always seen me when I went out there, no matter what her schedule. I might have been the last appointment of the day, but she has always seen me.
So-
I did not go out there that day.
So you was gonna call until you could see her, I guess is what you did.
Yeah,
You weren't gonna take no for an answer.
could be.
I understand. So you made those 3 phone calls after you was told that she had a full schedule. When you called the answering machine.
That didn't mean I was gonna hurt anybody.
No, but you was harassing them, weren't you?
No, definitely not. Yes, she stopped him.
What, let me ask the question. What did you mean when you said you were gonna go out there and get her? What does that mean? I listened to the tape here. You said you were gonna come out there and get her. What did you mean by that?
I meant come in the back door.
No, you
Or
said
knock
to
at the
get
back
her.
door.
You were gonna come out there and get her.
No intention whatsoever, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Petticoat confides.
So I don't know about even getting into this other thing about the deal with the alleged gunshot, because I'm at a disadvantage. The state troopers working at the KSP post, the body cam's not available. The body cam would determine whether or not there were bullet holes where Mr. Jarvis said there was, and if there's bullet holes in the jacket. So if the court wants to leave that open, we can, but I'm not even gonna get into that now, because the state trooper said one thing and he said something totally opposite.
Yeah. Ma'am, you don't need to be saying anything back there. You understand me? Can you hear me? You don't need to make any comments. Okay. You have another witness? You finished with him?
We're finished.
You can stand down, Mr. Jarvis. Thank you very much. You have another witness?
No.
You want to be heard?
Your Honor, I think this all needs to be taken in context of what's happened in the case ever since its inception. Mr. Jarvis wouldn't comply with his bond in district court. He was on home incarceration. He didn't abide by that. When he gets out and bond in this case, he, at the bare minimum, if it's not a threat, Dr. Petticoat, it's definitely harassing the staff. My position is when you say you're going to go to the back door and you're going to get somebody, that means you're going to physically get them. But you can try to explain it whatever way you want to. And this deal with Brad Cross going in the house and shooting at him is just delusional, in my opinion. There's no evidence. The trooper said there's no evidence. Anybody could have went a week later and shot a gun in the house if they wanted to. The body cam will tell the table whether there was a hole there or not. And Mr. Tucker, the state trooper, has got no reason to get up and lie in this case.
You like to be heard briefly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, Mr. Thompson mentioned you want to go back to the inception of the case because the evidence that you put on today does not establish anything. It doesn't show any bond violations of any kind. He called the medical office for medical treatment. He may have left brusque messages on the machine, but the witnesses have identified that it was in an effort to receive medical care. It wasn't intended to terroristically threaten anyone. It did not establish any of the elements of terroristic threatening. At best, it would have been harassing in nature, perhaps, but still, you had the goal of getting medical treatment. Second of all, in regard to the false report, the police officer, trooper, expressly stated that Mr. Jarvis honestly told him, I've got hearing problems. I've got this. I didn't see the guy. I can't even identify the car. He told him this and he made a
Well,
full.
how do you explain the difference between what he stated the first day and what he stated when he came there the second time? As far as the first time mentioning Brad Cross and that, how do you explain?
Okay. To me, Your Honor, it would require somewhat of speculation, but between that time, Mr. Cross showed up at the scene, okay? And then after seeing Mr. Cross, maybe Mr. Jarvis is like, well, it could have been him. But again, even at that time, he told the trooper, specifically, troopers testified, he told me he couldn't be sure it was Brad Cross. So if he's being asked to give all information and answer all these questions about anything about this incident, he's telling the trooper, honestly, I believe this, but I didn't see him. He's repeatedly said, I can't identify him the first time. The second time he tells him essentially the same thing. So you know, and
Well,
again,
it doesn't matter to me whether you can identify the person or not. The fact is that, he comes out there and reports an invasion at his house, a gunfire, a shot had been fired. Then when he testified, there was inconsistencies, whether the bullet whistled by his head while he was on the phone with his daughter. And in the same call, he was saying that he called his daughter to inform her that something had happened. So there are enough inconsistencies in his story to make me doubt his credibility on the issue. Now, whether or not he was having some sort of hallucination, which was alluded to, is an entirely different topic, which is not the subject of this hearing today, but might be the subject of a hearing sometime in the future. So I appreciate your cross-examination, but I will say that even if it was harassment, and I will tell you, if somebody calls my office and says they're going to come out there and get me, I'm going to take that very seriously. And he didn't deny that he said that he was going to come out there and get her, and that's because it was there and on the phone. So I'm going to say that he did violate the terms of his bond by either being harassing communication or terroristic threatening. And the truth or falsity of his allegations, they're very tenuous, these accusations, and do not have the indicia of being true. But the totality of the situation makes me believe that at the present time, that Mr. Eddie K. Jarvis has violated the terms of his bond and should not be released. Now, that does away with the bond reduction situation. That doesn't mean that I don't believe that something should happen with Mr. Jarvis that would get him some treatment or do an evaluation or that sort of thing. And we can bring that up at some juncture. Now, I will put on the record that I am aware there was some negotiation between Commonwealth and Defense Council earlier today that we delayed the hearing so far. If there cannot be a resolution of this thing, and if he's being held without bond because of bond violations, I do believe it's only fair to Mr. Jarvis to advance his case on the docket and give him a speedy trial. I know you haven't moved for a speedy trial yet, but you don't have to here. I mean, I believe if someone is incarcerated, they have a right to a speedy trial. So I can give y'all, this is Monday, maybe I'll give you like till Wednesday or so to see if you can reach some resolution, and y'all won't have to come back. Again, we'll get on the phone and set Mr. Jarvis a speedy trial on the charges that he has against it. It could very well be that the evidence that you have now, it satisfies my need for a preponderance of evidence, but wouldn't make it beyond a reasonable doubt like it would have to in front of a jury. Could very well be that's true. Okay. Is there anything else to be heard?
that's all.
Okay, thank y'all very much. Let's go off the radio.